Hi there, I'm Christina, and welcome to my podcast. Nuanced Beauty is intended to be a spot where I'll capture some varied thoughts and challenge us to hold to our opinions loosely so that we can see the beauty in others and in ourselves. I want us to dive deeper into those everyday topics or those sticky topics and thoughts that we might shy away from or bulldoze over others with our opinions. Because I think if we all thought exactly the same, there would be no need for anyone else. So let's get nuanced. Hi, welcome to 2023. It is January 1st when I'm recording this, and I had a pretty good night of sleep. We had a lot of fireworks in our neighborhood, pretty much from sunset until maybe 1 a.m. And we do have a toddler, not quite toddler, um, and we have a almost 6-year-old at home, right? So thankfully, the older kiddo slept through the night fine. He said he heard the fireworks, but he just went right back to bed. The younger kiddo did have some cry outs and some extra wake ups. So that was a doozy last night. And we did not make it to midnight, and the husband let me sleep in this morning. So I'm feeling pretty refreshed. And yeah, I am doing an episode that's kind of maybe a recap or reflection, embracing that new year, kind of thinking through what was and what's going to be. And I thought I'd kick us off by doing kind of just a short discussion. I do not have an episode recorded for Thursday yet, and I am typically, I set a goal that I would have one episode recorded, ready to release when the week before launches. And so it's Sunday, and Thursday is coming around the corner, and I'm feeling a little like I'm behind, even though I'm not, but I am because I set my own goal. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I have many topics that are in the queue that I'm kind of thinking through. I thought about spending an episode talking about yoga, spending an episode talking about CrossFit, about meditation, about doing a sugar fast. Um, and then I've got an episode ahead that I want to talk about hospitality. I know that we're coming off of the holidays, and a lot of folks have done some hosting for the holidays, but I want to dig into just some nuanced thoughts I have about hosting and maybe how we could be intentional this year with hosting and do it throughout the year and not just approaching the holidays. And then I have some topics ahead, uh, such as should we discredit the whole person when someone fails? Um, this topic, I'm kind of thinking about the way the media really discredits someone when something like crazy happens in their life. Think Will Smith, or think Trump, or um, think of the any sort of cancel culture, right? And how an event will happen and everyone will be outraged, and then that person will really be shunned and they'll be front and center. But then it's almost like we discredit everything that that person has ever brought to the table when we react in that way. And so I've thought about that episode as potential. And then I've also thought about doing an episode related to before and after parenting. I do think I had a pretty big shift between like always thinking that we'd have kids, but not knowing when that would happen, and also just having a strong sense of anxiety and a strong focus on my career. So I think that that could be a fun episode because I knew absolutely nothing about kids. Our kiddo was the first diaper that I ever changed. my eldest. Same with my husband. We were not raised around younger siblings, and both of our older siblings were actually living with their other parent for some of our upbringing. And so we both kind of have components of like being a single kid and but having siblings and kind of having a little bit of a lack of like exposure to children, besides like going to school with kids in your grade. So the idea of what parenting was going to look like and all that jazz, I thought might be a good episode. So that is what we have around the corner. And I wanted to, I guess, maybe kind of pull back the curtain. Obviously, I've only been doing this for 2 months, so I don't have a lot of experience to offer you all. But I thought I'd kind of share some of my reflections and what I've learned. First off, I wanted to share that 20 minutes of talking on your own is a lot, guys. Like, I send some friends Marcos on the regular, and I truly think that sending Marcos, which are like video recording messages, like you could do a group video like with a group of people, or you could do just a solo message, which is what I typically do. And I have gotten comfortable just talking without a person talking back at me. And I like have plenty of thoughts to share on the regular, but 20 minutes of having a focused like conversation that you're putting out there and pacing yourself is definitely a challenge. Um, and I also, kind of along those lines, I totally get why podcasters have co hosts or they do interviews, because it is way easier to be conversational when you have somebody like sitting next to you in a conversation or when you have an interview. Personally, I am trying to picture the people that I'm speaking to, like my audience. And I was trying to like come up with a name for my audience, but then I was also telling a girlfriend of mine that like picturing who I'm talking to is so challenging, because I do know of the personal friends that I have that I've shared this podcast with. Like I could picture one of them, but then I also have this battle in my mind because I know that I'm not just talking to them. And I'm trying to reach an audience of people that I potentially don't know, but who might enjoy thinking about these topics. And so there's this like thought in my head of, okay, I can picture that person, but I can't picture that other person. And so I would like to kind of picture my audience, and um, co-hosting and interviews is an easy way, I think, not an easy way, but a different way of getting beyond that, so that you're legit, you're talking with someone. And I think that is like, that's conversational, right? And I think a lot of folks enjoy podcasts because they're conversational, and then another group of folks really enjoy the educational aspect to them. And so trying to blend that idea is yeah, it's tricky. And then the last topic in regards to what I was kind of reflecting on is time dedicated to creating and thinking through topics, and how I'm going to present the topic. I would definitely like to improve on my time utilization. Um, since I got into producing this podcast, I have had less time to spend with reading. And I've had just moments where I'm trying to figure out, like, oh, this thought pops into my head. And so I want to write it down so I can capture it to come back to later. But then sometimes it feels like a heavy barrage of thoughts. So I almost want to like sit down and write it all down. And so I've been trying to text myself when a thought comes to mind. And then I'll sit back down and try and have a focused moment. And I feel like even with the thoughts written down, the energy and the complexity of thought that I originally had when I had the thought is just not there anymore. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out how to balance that out. The other thing with time utilization is social media, right? I think I recently did change my intro. Um, and if you listen to my original intro, I talk about how much I backed out of social media in the past couple years and how nice it's been. Like, there is this like component of I'm doing what's in front of me and I'm talking to the people who come to my mind versus passively scrolling through social media and kind of connecting with people, but not really connecting with people. And not to totally bash social media because I am back on Facebook and Instagram. And there is a component of like seeing these picture updates from people. I'm totally excited. Like seeing these kiddos that I saw when they were toddlers and they're now like in elementary school, I'm just like, oh my gosh, they've grown up. And then I have other friends who have had kids since I've been off social media, like college classmate friends who at one point in life we were closer, but now we live in totally different places and we're just not like texting or phone call friends. And they have children and they're like married and all these life events that have happened. And so there's a component that I'm really enjoying and I'm very like happy for these folks and how I knew them at one point and I still kind of know them, but we're not tight. And I'm enjoying that, like the life updates that are going on for them. And yeah, I would really like for myself with the social media side of things. Um, I'd like to grow, mostly I think Instagram is where I'm gonna hang out. I'd like to grow my Instagram. It's at nuanced_beauty. Because I would like to get to the point where my like personal Facebook page and my personal Instagram page, I'm not posting about the podcast on there. It's kind of that strange balance of like, I want to share podcasting with folks, but I also don't want to beat them over the head with it because there are a lot of people who are just not at all interested in podcasts. Like, the idea of sitting and listening to someone speak is so not on their radar or it's so not an interest. And they'd rather watch a movie, they'd rather like go do an activity. There's just so many other ways that they want to spend their time. And so I don't want to become that like annoying friend on Facebook or on Instagram that is only talking about their like business endeavor. And that's what it kind of feels like when I'm sharing thoughts on my personal like Facebook and Instagram. And I'm not posting much. And I kind of I don't know that I necessarily plan to post too much. Like I still think that um there's a good part of life that I found in creating space and not sharing my life with people on social media, but individually texting folks and sending them Marco videos that I've really enjoyed. Like there's just a different kind of intimacy in individually speaking to people or like actually having people over because I prefer one-on-one time with people or with families or small group settings. Like if I'm texting with someone, I would rather that they just like we set up a lunch date and we got together, or we did a dinner date and we got together and we chatted for 2 hours because that to me feels so much more life-giving than a back and forth of texts. And I kind of think our like generation in the like I'm in my 30s, right? I feel like making a phone call is less our thing, right? You'll probably agree with me. Probably the people in their 20s will agree with me. And I think that the phone call like used to work as that back and forth exchange, but we're just so like we're so not in the phone call space. And I do have a couple girlfriends that I have tried to get call on the phone, and it's been hit and miss because it just feels different, right? But having somebody in person is just so different. And obviously, the good part of social media, the nuanced part, is not everyone lives next door and not everyone has the same schedule as you. So there is a lot of nice like opportunities to connect with people who are on a different schedule than you, and who like live across the country. Like the fact that we can now be in Florida. And one of the gals that I've very much grown deeply in connection with is through Marco, which is a video messaging app. Like we video message on the regular. And I would say that she has become a confidant in life with me right now and where we're at. And there's also a component of the distance between us allowing us to, like, I don't know, be more connected in a way, because when we do talk on Marco, it's just a little more intentional than like living 45 minutes away or a half hour away. So there's something there, right? So oh yeah, social media, man. I I definitely feel a learning curve right now as I'm getting back on, but trying to figure out how to potentially grow my listenership, but then also maybe stay connected a little, but not too out there, because I feel that sense of like a one-way conversation that I don't love. So yeah. And let's see, what else was I going to share today? Oh, what I would like to improve this year. I kind of ran over some of the topics that I'd like to go into. I am looking forward to incorporating guests and interviews. I have a friend in mind that we may be putting out a podcast in the coming weeks that we'll chat about like New Year's and New Year's resolutions and such. And I would like to expand in that area because I do think like my first podcast that I really loved was an interview style podcast. But I also have another podcast that I really love that fit this kind of model of like a short time frame, but a very thoughtful reflection. And I think that if you've listened to these first 2 months, my podcasts have really fit that model. Um, and then just the final thought I'd like to leave you with is defining nuanced beauty, right? So I changed my intro, um, and the main the main driver behind changing the intro and the brief informational like blurb about your podcast is that I originally, when I was recording that first episode or two, I was thinking relationally um, about nuanced beauty and like how there are a lot of topics that we hold like with a closed grip fist. And we could do so much better if we just kind of opened our hand. And with the open hand, we allowed someone to put something in our hand because they have something to offer. And there are, of course, times when the way we feel about something is very core to who we are, and that is totally okay. But I think we're really like struggling to allow space for other people or just like properly engage with other people. And our own personal stance that the person we're talking to does not even like know the full breadth of. Like you might be able to pick up on someone's body language and you might like get the vibe that you guys aren't clicking, but we get to control our own little circle and how we react to what someone else is sharing with us. And we could do so much better at embracing nuance so that we can just live our lives better, so that we're not as riled by someone who has a different opinion than us. And I think when we embrace this concept of nuance, it just allows for our own temperament to be improved, right? And so initially, I was thinking in regards to how we are going to relate with another person, but I do kind of feel, as I've explored topics that I want to get into, that it's not just about how we relate to other people. There's also a component of how, in general, we relate to ourselves. Think back to last week's episode about how we interact with the scale. And how we relate to these concepts. So the scale is a representative thing of like, this is a very powerful force in my life or anyone's life, that it is both how do we perceive ourselves in relation to our weight, and just that overall concept of what does weight mean to you, and how does it impact your behavior, and how does it impact your thoughts, and how do you move forward because of that. So that's kind of a an even broader interpretation of nuanced beauty, where at first I was hoping to stay just in the relational aspect. I feel as I'm coming up with topics and as I get into interviewing or guest people, I don't have a huge followership. So I definitely would like to start doing interviews, but I also don't know how successful I'll be at getting people to let me interview them without a large base. But you never know. Like, some people are very kind and they can make time, or like, maybe I'll win the lottery and interview someone who's super cool that is like years ahead of me in their influential message, right? But I think that nuanced beauty just got even more nuanced, is how I would um, conclude that. I have really enjoyed my time thus far in these first couple months, and I'm seeing the growing potential and opportunities. And I'm also seeing where I have to refine my own approach to podcasting. And yeah, it's been a fun short ride so far. And thank you for being some of my first listeners. Thank you for rating the show. Thank you for sharing this with other folks. And I am enjoying this. I definitely am enjoying this. And I hope that I'm able to reach other people as we continue talking through whatever topics we talk through. Um, so with that, I will wrap this up. I'm over my time. So there we go. I talked 22 minutes now. And yeah, that wasn't too bad, right, guys? So I wish you and your family, your friends, your loved ones a happy new year. And I am looking forward to 2023, finding moments of nuance and finding moments of beauty. And I look forward to sharing those moments with you guys. Take care. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you consider leaving me a review or possibly share it with a friend? And if you would like to get in touch, you can send me an email at nuancedbeauty@yahoo.com. Take care until next time.